Hey guys, I'm excited today to be with Crystal Young, who is a master of habit change and health and lifestyle coach. How are you doing today, Crystal?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. How about yourself, Matt?
Um, right. It's like the polar vortex here in New York, and so it's like really cold, and it feels cold in the house too. um, how is it for you?
Wow, it is actually really nice out. It's one of our sunny days, and I don't know if you can see this, but the snow is melting.
Huh?
The It actually feels like a spring day. The sun's shining, so that's why I'm kind of like, woo, loving it.
It does look really nice where you're at. You're in Canada?
Yes, just outside of Calgary. It's a little hamlet called Bragg Creek.
Oh, nice. Sounds like a nice,
Yeah,
cozy, like naturey place.
absolutely. I'm sorry it's so cold in New York.
No, it's not your fault. Uh, can you give us a little background of what you do and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, what I do is I help people through change and in a way where it's called transformational coaching method. So it's using a neuroscience based method that pretty much says, okay, I know how our brains work. We're negatively biased. Let's use that and actually rewire your brain so that change can actually feel easy. And the people that I love to serve are those that are kind of the generous givers of the world. So these are the people that are like, they push the status quo, they're really innovative, and they just love to give from their heart, but they are self-sacrificing. They're starting to see that they're getting tired, maybe their health is not as good as it could be, they're feeling depleted at the end of the day, they're doing all this stuff for their vision and their mission, but they're leaving themselves for last. And so my mission is to really kind of create a movement so that these self-sacrificing leaders can be thriving, and they can, instead of giving from the bottom of the bucket, sort of, they're actually giving from the abundant overflow of their energy. So yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, well, that sounds awesome. And I know that there's tons of people with that problem who are givers by nature, but are kind of overdoing it in terms of not giving to themselves and kind of falling out of balance and not having a sense of boundaries over that. So I know it's a very common, like it's very common problem. A lot of people face that, and so it's really great that you're working on creating a movement around this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I know last time we talked, you mentioned there's a lot of like trickiness when it comes to talking about money, and people have a lot of I don't know if you say confusions or just unclear thinking, let's say, about the concept of money and about how your relationship with money. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, a lot of what I see is that people are, they want more money. Essentially, that's the bottom line. And what they do to get more money is they focus on the outside strategy. And so, in pursuit of money, they're saying, okay, how do I get more money? And everything is kind of on the outside in terms of, well, here's the strategy, here's the business practice. Maybe even the lottery winners, where they will, win the lottery, and let's say they get the money. The problem with that is that even if their strategy succeeds and they invite in more abundance and they're at a place where they want to be, what can happen is they're not actually enjoying the abundance.
Mm.
They are either getting the money, but they're not able to hold on to it. It starts to leave them somehow. Or, maybe they are attracting in money and yet they don't feel happy about it. And so what's happening is, everything is focused on the outside. And what I like to do is kind of say, well, what if we uncover your relationship with money on the inside to understand what's actually the block that's holding you back from truly enjoying the abundance that you want, and inviting in more in a way that feels good and that really serves you and your best self. So I'm not sure if I explained that quite right, but it's essentially, I take what people are looking at on the outside. If you are, you've tried all these things, but you still don't seem to be getting ahead, then it is very likely that it's actually something inside. And so I can walk you through an exercise where we uncover that relationship with money, find out what your blocks are, know what's holding you back, and then rewrite your money story. So that you can actually come to a place where you're like, oh my gosh, either inviting in more abundance or enjoying the abundance, keeping the abundance, and doing it in a way that really serves you and uplifts you and makes you thrilled.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You've articulated that very well, I think. And from what I understand, like, people have all kinds of relationships with money, and it tends to be the case that, if you are, let's say, externally satisfied and you have all this money, or maybe you don't, a lot of the times it's a matter of looking within you and figuring out, like, maybe it's your relationship with money that's the problem, or maybe it's like the psychology of how you're thinking about money that's the problem. Which leads me to ask, like, what is a good relationship with money in terms of how we're thinking about it?
What is a good relationship with money? So the answer to that question really lies within each person.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people can say, I want oodles and oodles of money. I want to have all this abundance that I can create and I can have freedom. For me, I had a big conflict. I was thinking, well, maybe I'm not meant for a lot of money. Maybe I need just enough, because I don't really believe in waste. And then I had to really come around to, for me, why abundance is so important is because I want to follow my intuition and I want to be divinely led. We're getting into a little bit of woo-woo here, but I want to have the freedom to be like, you know what? I'm feeling like I need to take 6 months off. I'm going to go live in Thailand for 6 months, and I'm going to explore this piece because that's going to bring my best self. And that means I need an abundance of money to have a significant buffer so that I can create and follow my intuition and make contribution. I want to give away 50% of my earnings and give to the causes that I'm passionate about once I hit a certain income point. So these are the kinds of, it really depends on the person, and it really is more, it's not just one definition of what's a good relationship with money, but it is what is most congruent and aligned with your authentic expression of who you are.
Okay.
That will define what the relationship with money, the ideal relationship with money is for you. Does that make sense?
It does. It definitely does make sense. And what I'm hearing from that is it's one of the biggest, one of the most important things when it comes to money is knowing the reasons why you want the money. Like, what is it going to do for you? And like, here's exactly what I'm going to do when I get the money. And here's why, here's the emotional value of it to me. I don't want to just accumulate for, no reason, but I actually have a specific thing that I'm going to do when I get the money. And then if I find, like, if I guess, I've done a lot of goal setting exercises in the past, and I've also gone through like similar realizations that if I set a goal for myself that's, I want $1 billion, just because why not think big. And I'm really looking at it and I'm really asking myself why I want this. I come to the realization that I don't want this because I don't have a good reason for that. And I think that if you don't have a good reason to achieve your money goal, and I don't need to have $1 billion, I can definitely achieve my goals without it. If you don't have a good reason for it, it might not even be a good goal to, for example, set that goal for $1 billion. So that's a realization that I had. I don't know if you had a comment about that.
Yeah, I love that, Matt. And it's very self-aware of you as well to kind of realize that for yourself. And it made me think as well, okay, so what I'm hearing from you is you must have a good reason for it. And I absolutely agree with that. And that is, it really comes down to congruency and alignment with who you are and what you're here to do and what your purpose is. It's the why. It's the purpose underneath it. And so as a complementary kind of piece to this, I also want to caution people in some of the mistakes that can happen, which is, what if people say, for instance, I just don't want to be poor. I don't want to be poor. It's painful. I don't want to struggle. I grew up on EI, on welfare. I'm moving away from this. And the problem with that is that when you're so fixated on what you're moving away from, but you don't have a towards what you're moving towards, then this part is kind of blank. So you don't actually know what it feels like. What's involved when you actually achieve this money? What does this vision look like? Can you get comfortable in this space? Can you handle it? Can you handle it? And generally, if you are moving away from being, the fears of being on welfare or struggling, it is likely that you will spin right back to that place. Your brain cannot understand. It finds truth in what your words are. And it cannot understand, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to struggle. But if you say, I want abundance, I want freedom, I want to travel, I want to create, I want to contribute, all of a sudden your brain can now latch onto that and your body can start to feel comfortable in that space. But if you say, I don't want to, then all you can do is go back to that place. Your brain just wants to go back to that place because you keep fixating on those words and that experience.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, it's so ironic, right? So any fear-based, I don't want this, generally will take you right back to where you don't want to go.
That makes sense. So instead of going for what you don't want, you have to go for what you want. And then once you figure that out, changing your behavior and changing your actions to become mature enough and developed enough to actually be responsible for taking care of that amount of money, which is not, it's not just like you having $1 million requires a certain like shift in your behavior and your mindset and all these other things. So it's just a bunch of habits that need to change in addition to you just having that money like that.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, you're very good at summarizing these things. And I think what's unique about what I do is I like change. So I'm a master of habit change. People have asked me, oh, I just want to do this one thing and I just want the one session. But the piece with change is that when you just try and kind of uproot the beliefs and be like, oh my goodness, I got it. I got the aha. And you just get the realization mentally, that's great for a little while, but it will not stick unless you put it into change comes. That's where you can start to rewire the brain and deepen those paths of the new way of being. And what I do is, I think that's quite unique, is I work on that with mental rehearsals, with other approaches like tapping, with understanding your triggers throughout your day. Like, when does this come? How can you recognize this? How can you stop this from happening? How can you replace the old behavior with the new behavior? And then reinforce that path so that it becomes your way, so it becomes easy, so that it becomes natural to be, all right, I'm abundant. I feel that. And then when you're feeling that, it comes. It has a place to stay. It feels comfortable being with you if that's your energetic space. I might be getting a little too woo-woo here, but hopefully you're getting this.
No, I'm getting you. It's really grounded, and it's like you're changing the habits and changing the kind of brain the way the brain reacts in order to fit this new identity that you're creating for yourself. And I mean, that sounds really valuable to me. I know I think very much in terms of systems and habits and all this like behavior processes. So that's right up my alley right there. And I think, I'm also really into change, but I like that you're really focused on that and like changing habits, changing behavior, changing the brain. Because that's valuable. That's how you get the results you want in life.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, hopefully that is helpful to your listeners. I'm not sure what your listeners are looking for, but I'm happy to share more. I know we have a limited amount of time today, but yeah, people are absolutely welcome to pick my brain, connect, to collaborate, to ask any follow-up questions. I have workshops. This is probably my most popular topic in my workshop, so I'm happy to share that as well. But I just like to connect with people. So if there's any part of this that spoke to you, I would say reach out to me and let's have a chat.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll definitely share your contact information so people can do that. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be on this interview today, and I hope to do more collaborations like this in the future.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Matt.